So today we're going to be talking balls. Pro V1s or Titleist premium balls to be specific. So easy for me to say, as I know. So apart from the fact that between Pro V1, Pro V1X, Pro V1X left dash, AVX, two have a black number, two have a red number. Outside of that, what is the difference? So there's been some confusion in the last few years because the Pro V1 and the Pro V1X, they used to be, the Pro V1 was the higher spin ball, the Pro V1X was the lower spin ball. But a few years back, they changed. So they just flipped it around so that the Pro V1 is now the lower launching, slightly lower spin ball. Pro V1X is now the higher launching, higher spin ball. And that's something that's caused a lot of confusion in the last few years. The amount of players that have come in and said, oh, I play the Pro V1X, that's the lower spin ball. And even now, 3 or 4 years on from the changeover, there has been a bit of I think, a lack of clarity on that. So of the 4 balls, this is generally how they go. You've got, from a launch and spin point of view, from the Pro V1 side of things, you've got lowest launching, lowest spinning is Pro V1. Highest launching, highest spinning is Pro V1X. And then Pro V1X left dash is the nearly as high launching as Pro V1X, but the lowest spinning ball. Throw into the mix the AVX. The AVX is a lower compression ball, and this one is designed for the lowest long game spin. With a urethane cover, it still retains a decent amount of spin around the green, but it's the lowest spin of the long game balls and going to be the softest feeling because of the core. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit some 6 irons with each one. We'll look at where those launch and spins vary, look at the data and explain what the differences are and why you might choose one ball versus the other. So we'll start with the standard Pro V1. I'm just going to make sure I sort these so they're in the right order. So Pro V1 has been, really the most played ball over the years, by a reasonable way. Certainly, it's massively played on tour, massively played by amateurs alike around the globe. It's just been a high performance golf ball for a number of years now. So one of the things versus some of the old players' balls, they were very, very soft material. The old wound balls, the ballatas, very, very soft. And when the Pro V1 came in, it went to a solid core rather than a liquid core, and that's where the balls became quite a lot firmer. So actually, one of the differences between the premium balls and a distance ball has a much softer core, but it's got a firmer cover. And that's what reduces backspin and gives the distance. It's not a harder core material than the premium balls, than the Pro style balls. So I'm going to hit 2 or 3 with each ball type, and we'll see where the flights vary. So really, again, really solid feeling ball. It's been, performance-wise, it's been known to be a very strong performer for a long time. So. And I'd certainly, a few years back, I moved away from Pro V1 because I wanted a slightly softer feeling ball. I've actually gone back into it to gain a little bit of distance with my driver. It just optimizes the flight and the spin with my driver a little bit more now. So, okay. Not the greatest of strikes, the last one, but that will do. Right, I'll move on from Pro V1. I'll move on to the Pro V1X. So, Pro V1X, red number, slightly firmer core. One of the reasons why the Pro V1X became the higher launching, higher spinning ball is on a harder core, it's easier to get the cover to grip the face. So the less compression you get, the more it actually presses the urethane into the grooves. So on short irons, irons from a spin point of view, you're getting the grip on the face a little bit more easily. But it is a harder feel. So this will have a little bit more of a click off the face. So a little bit of a higher pitch note, a little bit of a harder sound. And this is something that not every golfer is overly keen on, that harder feel. And that's one of the things that Callaway with the chrome soft, soft's in the name, but that's really one of the things. I've hit both of those well. Actually, that's representative. That's one of the things that they've really majored on from a differentiation point of view. So we'll go from Pro V1X, we'll go to Pro V1X left dash. So left dash was really, sort of, I guess, TP5X TaylorMade was a higher launching ball, but a very low spin one. And the left dash was really designed to not reduce launch angle, but keep the spin right down. Very much one might call it kind of the bomber's ball, kind of high speed, high spin players. Really designed for that style of player. So we're not looking to take launch angle down, but we are looking to take spin down. And again, being the Pro V1X sort of model, that's still that harder sound to it. So it's really quite a firm feeling ball, which a lot of that's going to affect short game more than the long game, chipping and putting in particular. So very much that click off the face, a little bit fadey, so that flies it up a little bit more, but again, those are well hit. So, and then what's going the other end of the scale, we're going to the AVX. So AVX is a very recent addition, really designed to give the player a premium cover. So one of the things that when you go to a softer core ball, most of the time the cover material gets a little bit firmer because it's designed to minimize side spin and minimize backspin, so to get the ball going a long distance. The problem with that is you then lose spin with the wedges. So with the AVX, they retain that urethane cover, and the urethane is the material that stretches a bit more and gets as much spin as possible because it grips the face as much as you can. But the softer core on this means it squashes a little bit more on the face. That also has an effect on reducing a little bit of spin too. So this one, very, very different sound and feel. In principle, designed to optimize with the driver around a lower club speed. And that's really what the core does. The harder the core, the higher the club speed that the low spin is optimized for. So as club speed drops, as you move from driver to fairways to irons to wedges, you're not loading the core as much. So the less important that core is, the performance of the ball. So it's you get much more of a drop-off in performance by playing a ball that's too soft for you. So for me to play a distance ball, the spin consistency, the ball speed would drop, versus a premium ball where I'm actually loading the core and it's not deforming too much. So moving to the AVX, so much, much softer core, we should see a reduction in spin rate. And very different sound off the face. There isn't really that click that we got from the Pro V1, Pro V1X. Very, very toned down sound because of that core material change. Not that it's not as soft as a, Strixon soft feel or one of the true soft Titleist balls. So it's still got some kind of pop to it, but it's a very different note to the Pro V1X than the left dash. So what does that mean from a flight numbers point of view, from a data standpoint? So just about get all these on screen. Actually, I'm going to take off the bottom data, we can get it there. So across all the averages, where are we with these? Now, there's one of the shots with the Pro V1, the first batch. I'm just going to filter that was a little bit weaker. So just to make sure there aren't any anomalies. Yeah, I'm at 120, let's take that, wasn't as good a strike. So as I've worked through, as you can see, I've hit more shots from bottom to top. Club speed's crept up. That's just me hitting more shots. Club speed will have nothing to do with the ball itself. So as a result of club speed going up, we can see ball speed creeping up. So where there's a 2 mile an hour difference in club speed from the Pro V1 to the AVX, there's a 4 mile an hour ball speed. Now there is a little bit more ball speed off the AVX on those shots. But what we can see is that graduation in launch and spin. So if we take Pro V1 at the bottom, 16 launch, 5,400 on spin. We then go to Pro V1X. Now launch angle stayed broadly speaking the same. Now some of that varies in my delivery, but we can see the spin for a 0.2 of a degree lower launch has gone up by 330 revs. So we've got 7 or 8% more spin rate. So that's getting it going from a land angle from 47 degrees to 48. So picked up that little bit of land angle through spin. Move on to the Pro V1X left dash. So those couple of shots I've launched a little bit higher, so launch angle's gone up to 17, but the spin's then come down to 5,250. So if you take spin relative to launch angle, that is far, far lower than the standard Pro V1, but also Pro V1X. So you can see where that change in ball flight and launch and spin profile is with those three balls. So you really can tune in the flight window with the ball. Once you get your clubs performing optimally, we would always use the ball to fine tune those in where we can, rather than the equipment to work around the ball unless we absolutely have to. So with some of the pros we work with, they're contracted certain balls, and then would like a certain feel from the ball. So you can work around, you have to make the equipment work to that at certain times. But this is where you can really dial in, iron, certainly from between say Pro V1X and Pro V1, lower launch, lower spin, higher launch, higher spin, to optimize that flight window once you find the best performing product. Then we go on to the AVX. Now, launch angle's down a little bit more with this, so just under 16 launch, but the spin down to 4,875. So from a raw yardage point of view, that's producing the most yardage. Yes, there's a little bit more ball speed, but from a flight point of view, that's flattened the top of it down. So that's really geared towards players who flare the ball up, spin it too much, are trying to minimise that left-right dispersion by reducing a little bit of the spin, but that backspin down really gets it cannoning forward. So from a yardage progression point of view, Pro V1X, Pro V1, ball speed being equal, Pro V1 is going to be a little bit longer. But then the left dash from a raw yardage point of view, because it's got the high launch and the low spin, that's going to be a little bit longer again. But what's going to be important is how it gets there. So you can see there's quite a spread. Now, land angles vary from 46.7 degrees to 48.8. So there's quite a spread in terms of how the ball's actually coming in, but then how it's getting there from a spin versus launch point of view. So, so the key takeaways to this are Pro V1 is now the lower launching ball and lower spinning versus Pro V1X, but there are now layers either side with AVX to bring that launch and spin down and softer feel even more, and the Pro V1X left dash to give that harder feel but high launch, low spin characteristic for maximum distance, but really for kind of high spinners and high ball speed players. So hope that helps just to clarify it a little bit. Certainly you can use those balls to optimise the launch and spin performance both with driver and irons, but also the feel characteristics that you want to take into account too. And then add into that all the other brands of balls that are out there as well. So there are so many ways that you can fine tune and dial in that ball flight as well as the feel across all the brands and across all the ball types. So hope that helps.